This is the Illinois Nutrient Loss Reduction Podcast, episode number 6, Conservation Tillage, Cover Crops, and Side Dressing Nitrogen. I'm Illinois Extension's Todd Gleason. We're now joined by Steve Stierwald, farmer from the southwestern side of Champaign County who's been using conservation tillage, cover crops, and side dressing nitrogen on his farm for several years. I asked him about the management practices.
Our farm is no-till and strip-till. We strip-till our corn and no-till our soybeans. And our management practices, we've been refining those over the last few years as we've learned more about the nutrient loss reduction strategy and shall we say, our contributions to that. We've been trying to refine our practices to find ways to keep in our part of the world, obviously, the tile drained areas, our contribution, shall we say, is fugitive nitrogen. And so we've been trying to refine our practices to find ways to keep the nutrients, where we want them on the farm.
So you've been active at this for quite a while now, maybe 20 years or so. I'm going to guess to begin with as a way to either power down in terms of equipment and or to save soil, although you're on good flat land. How has that changed over the decades?
Well, I'm 63, and so as a kid, I really enjoyed the moldboard plow. It was fun to get out there and hear the engine run, and then the soil savers came along, the Glencoe soil saver, and but as I got a chance to go through the university and learn about rill erosion and sheet erosion, things that you don't, I always thought of gullies, there's your erosion, but there's so much that you lose anytime that water hits a bare patch of soil. It can displace that soil and then it can move. And so we've tried to find more ways to keep cover on the soil year round, and as I say, our management practices have been starting to evolve to more cover crops, and certainly with the no-till, we're keeping our residue in place, and we're trying to even now to work into having more living crops on the soil year round. And what we're seeing from that, the nutrient loss reduction strategy calls for us to reduce our nitrate loading to the Gulf of Mexico by 45%. And thanks to some very timely research that NREC has funded through the University of Illinois with Lowell Gentry and some of the guys, we've seen that cereal rye following corn in our area here can reduce our nitrate leaving our farm by 40 to 60%. And so we've really ramped up our efforts on learning how to use cereal rye following corn ahead of soybeans. Another thing that we all know that nitrogen is leaky, and the 4Rs is a great way to address nitrogen concerns like that. But anything that we can do to keep that, to put that nitrogen on closer to when the crop can use it, is what we're starting to move more to side dress. We'll put on 32% with our planter, and then we'll side dress our anhydrous on a big percentage of our crop nowadays.
So a couple of things. Producers will be concerned, we'll start with the nitrogen application, about side dressing so many acres in the springtime for fear that the corn will get away from them if the weather doesn't cooperate.
That is always a concern. And so anytime nitrogen is obviously our most important nutrient, as we have to have it in at the right time. So we don't necessarily try to wait for corn to get a foot high before we start to side dress. We'll even do some blind side dressing, right after we plant, because it is important to get it on timely. So that is job one as soon as planting done is to get the side dressing done. And if you're on top of it, there's no guarantees, but there's a good chance you can get it done.
So you're using the GPS unit, of course, to put that in the middle of the row. Do you have recommendations as to how to split it? Are you right down the center, or do you lay it off to the side 5 to 8 inches, or do you have a plan?
There is some research that shows some advantages to getting that nitrogen a little closer. So far, we're putting our 32% in a 2x2 band with the planter. But now the anhydrous, we're still putting it down the middle of the row. We haven't come up with a good way to get that done yet. So we're looking at some of the high-speed equipment that don't do as much disturbance as the shank machines, but we haven't invested in that yet. But that is something we're considering.
On the cereal rye, is it working very well, and how many acres or percentage of your farm do you try to use it on?
Anybody that's looking at a new practice like cereal rye or something like that, I would recommend you start with a 40 or an 80. You don't want to take on your whole farm that first year. You need to learn how it works for you and your soils and like that. So we're still in that phase of just kind of ramping up as far as how we're using it. And we're actually going to try another management technique that we haven't done, is in our cereal rye, actually building strips in the cereal rye to plant soybeans on. And so we're going to compare that with our 15-inch row soybeans in the cereal rye and just get some experience with that. We've seen such good results with planting soybeans early. And so we're thinking about trying the strips so that we'll have those warm, dry soils, so we can go out there just as early as we want to plant corn. We can plant our soybeans also, even in the cereal rye. So it's a management technique we haven't experimented with yet, but we're wanting to try.
And then you would kill it how?
You can wait until after you plant and then actually spray it with cereal rye is easy to kill with Roundup. Annual rye is the one that's really tough. You got to really be careful with it. But so far, cereal rye responds quite easily to a glyphosate application.
Of all the things that you do, what would you suggest first that a conventional farmer try?
What is the first thing is to try to get your nitrogen closer to when your crop is needing it. And so if you can try splitting application, if you like to have anhydrous in the fall with a stabilizer, that's still a good management practice. But try maybe splitting some of that application with some of it closer to when the crop needs it. And also what really concerns me is we have these wonderful chopping corn heads, and we have these vertical till tools and all these things, and so often now I'll see people with a chopping corn head, then disking their corn stalks, and then chiseling them, and we're, in my opinion, we're back to where we were with the moldboard plow. I mean, we've got it. There's nothing left on top. And again, anybody that's seen a slow motion photography of a drop of rain hitting bare soil, it's just amazing the energy that has to displace soil and get it to move. So, this is a tremendous resource we have, and we need to keep a cover on our soil to keep that stuff from moving.
Steve Stierwalt is a farmer from Champaign County, Illinois. You've been listening to the Illinois Nutrient Loss Reduction Podcast, episode number 6. I'm U of I Extension's Todd Gleason.